So last Tuesday, there was an outbreak at the Riverton City Landfill, another fire, not for the first time. Fires at Riverton happen almost every year and sometimes several times throughout the year. This morning, we'll discuss how the fires impact the environment and society and what can be done to prevent future outbreaks. Our guest now is Dr. Teresa Rodriguez-Moody, Chief Executive Officer of the Jamaica Environment Trust. Good morning, Dr. Teresa. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I guess I could just say the more things change, the more they remain the same, don't?
Unfortunately, we have seen a few improvements every time there's a fire, but the promises that are made every year that we won't have it again, we still have it again. Yeah. So clearly not enough is being done.
And what are those promises that would stop it from happening, that not happening?
Well, this time we've heard that the fire is as a result of it's spontaneously caused. What that means, I'm not quite sure, but in previous years, it's been caused by people going in and arson, right? So they said that, okay, we need to put in security. A lot of those things have been put in place, but the reality is that there have been promises made to move Riverton. Riverton is not a landfill, it is a dump, which means that it is not lined. You have people living right next door to it. They have people working in the dump. We have businesses lining the facility, and we have all of these things that are causing significant health impacts, but we're also not studying the impacts. So we don't even know the long-term effects of these constant fires. So, the reality is that a lot of these promises are still unmet, but we know what to do. We're just not doing them.
The challenge with the theory, or what is your challenge with the theory of the spontaneity of the fire? Do you think that perhaps that's not the case?
Well, I think when we say, first of all, let me say I'm not an expert on this.
Right.
But for a fire to take place, you have to have certain conditions that are ripe for a fire to start. So maybe it's not caused by anybody specifically, but there has to be a reason for it. So I think we heard that it was because there are extremely dry conditions. Mm-hmm. We also have very windy conditions over the last couple of days. We're in the middle of a drought, but also because of how it's not a landfill. So you have, you just put the material there, and yes, you have cover fill that covers it so that it's not exposed and so forth to the elements. But these things do take place, and until we convert it into a proper landfill, and I don't think we can actually convert it until we have a proper landfill, have proper landfills, because we have none in the island, then these kind of fires will continue to take place. And I should add that Riverton is not the only dump that burns. We have from time to time hear reports from fires in the dump in Montego Bay, the one in Portmore, in St. Thomas. So these things are happening, but the one in Kingston gets a lot of attention because it affects so many more people.
Yeah. It was ridiculous. Like the smoke that was blanketing Kingston City and the environs. I mean, as far away as Kingston 8, I saw people on social media who were posting from different parts of Jamaica saying the smoke is literally sitting atop us. I can only imagine the impact. I felt like I was suffocating on Saturday night. The impact of those who live in the community, Doc. How is it feasible that we have not been studying the impact on these people?
That's a very good question. Because we should want to know what is the long-term impact. I think that coming out of the 2015 fire, when I was looking at the report that was prepared by NEPA, they said that we're going to do a health impact survey. I don't know the status of that because, of course, we tend to make promises when we coming out of an event and say we're going to do all of these different things, and then we don't hear about it ever again. And so I'm not sure what the status of that is, but it's not just a one-time study. It's not just how have you reacted to or responded to this event, but it's looking at the communities that border the dump or the waste disposal site, as many prefer to call it, and looking at how their health has been impacted. And I think as Jamaicans, we tend to dismiss, we say, oh, it's smoke. And you almost talk about it as a nuisance. And yes, by law, it's referred to as a nuisance, but that almost seems like it's not a significant health impact.
Yeah, it's not just something that's making your clothes on the line stink.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it actually has. So yes, if you have sensitive respiratory system, yes, you will be more at risk. It might trigger your asthma, and it can have certain exposure, long-term exposure to these chemicals that are in the smoke can affect your organs, can affect your body. And this is something that we need to be studying and looking into in greater detail.
Yep. In speaking to our sister station on radio, I hope they quoted you properly. It says you criticized NEPA for its monitoring of the National Solid Waste Management Authority, noting the lack of sanctions against it. Is that so?
I think a lot more can be done. A lot more can be done.
Like?
I've heard the recent CEO say, well, we can't exactly shut them down. And maybe you can't shut them down, but come on, we can do more. And if a lot of people are going to take action, because action can be taken. I think at the same interview, we've heard the public defender say that Jamaicans can feel free to come to file a complaint to seek redress. And the fact is, if more people take legal action, for example, they will see that this is more than just a nuisance, that we actually take our health very seriously and more needs to be done. So, yeah.
Yeah. Earlier, you gave a couple of reasons it's not a landfill, but explain the difference between this dump and a landfill. That's the first part of my question. And the second part is, where would you put it?
Okay, I'll answer your second question, right? First, there has been a study or several studies over the years have been commissioned to determine where a landfill or where several landfills could be placed. And I think we should have finished that. I don't know what the status of it is. I think that we heard an announcement in 2022 or 2023 from the Prime Minister that said, yes, we're going to close the dump. But he didn't say where we're going to put this new landfill. And a landfill, really, so what it is, this is just an area that we dump material. And once upon a time, we never used to lay it out and cover it with soil or cover material. It's also not lined. There might be some clay, but it's not properly lined. So what does that mean? It means that all of this garbage that you have, that as it breaks down, it starts to release different types of chemicals. And all of that will start to leach down into your underground water supply or into your nearby freshwater supply, like your rivers, because right next to the dump is a river, right? The Duhaney River. And that goes out to sea. So the question is, or rather, so that a landfill is properly lined, so that you don't have all of that leaching, but it also allows for the gases that are building up as things start to break down to properly be removed in a safe way. And you can actually harness this gas, methane that is produced, you can actually harness it and use it. We've had many suggestions: waste to energy, incinerate, do your landfill. But the fact is, all of these have been looked at, as far as I understand, but still not hearing the specific plans. There's a closure plan that has been prepared for Riverton. So it says that when we close it, this is how we're going to close it. This is how we're going to rehabilitate it, so it actually doesn't look like a dump anymore. And as the material there continues to break down, this is what we're going to do to capture the gases and take it off so that it doesn't spontaneously burn. But again, I don't know what the status of that is. So where are we with actioning those things?
The fear I fear and perhaps that you fear, is when I look at all that smoke and see all that fire, I think carcinogens. That's what scares me.
Yeah, it's not bush smoke we're talking about. We're talking about everything that you tend to use, every kind of, just think about your waste that you generate. Think about all the different organizations that are out there. All of that waste tends to go to Riverton. And what I must add is that we, in our constitution, have a right to a healthy environment. Okay? This means that we have a right to clean air, clean water, free from ecological degradation, right?
Yep.
And so what that means is that the fact that we are not taking adequate measures to prevent such fires is that we're not taking the Constitution seriously, because we're not protecting the public from such environmental disasters.
Yep.
So the question is, how do we hold the folks
Accountable,
responsible
yeah.
to account so that we
Yeah.
actually get what we're supposed to get?
Thanks, Dr. Teresa. All the best to you and the family. God bless.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
It might also mean the way we dispose of our garbage.
Well, that's the first thing. Is
Yeah, I remember I said I went to Germany all the way back in 1999, and every single one of the garbage bins had segments. So paper here,
Well,
plastic there.
we can't look at recycling and compartmentalizing until we learn to dump regular garbage in regular bins.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've spoken
Crazy.
to Oregon about
Crazy.
so often.
Yeah, man.
Personal responsibility is a huge part of this
Yeah,
as
man.
well.
Crazy.
This is something that needs to be sorted on a broader
Yeah.
scale.
Yeah, I was telling Sim that that's Israel, Spanish Town Road, and I'm at Constant Spring Playfield and had to stop training because of the smoke. And I found it strange. I'm looking, and it's almost like you saw the cloud coming all the way down like this. It was eerie almost, and I go, what is that? And then I felt it here. And I said, oh, this is the smoke.
smoke.
And I had to stop training because that's not healthy. All right, Dr. Teresa Rodriguez Moody, and she's the Chief Executive Officer of the Jamaica Environment Trust.
All right, after the break, we're meeting two of the nominees for the Prime Minister Youth Awards for Excellence.